medical curriculum be modified to influence career choice? This question implies that the MD curriculum can influence career choice and also that the present state of affairs is stationary or at least stable. There are now 114 medical schools in the United States. 11 of them accept high school graduates. 17 have 3-year degree programs. 91 offer programs leading to simultaneous master's or PhD and MD degrees. However, all curricula where certain common characteristics have certain common characteristics. A basic science component, usually consisting of clinical core and clerkships, and an elective or selective component. Further, all schools share the characteristic of being located midway in the educational process that produces a practicing physician. Dr. Morton Bogdanoff stated in the Archives of Internal Medicine last year that it usually requires 3 schools to produce a practitioner: a college, a medical school, and a hospital. I think it also takes a 4th, the School of Hard Knocks, better known as medical practice. Dr. William E. Cadbury, speaking at the Symposium on the Education of Tomorrow's Physicians at the New York Academy of Medicine in October 1972, emphasized that the broadly educated college student was more likely to serve society well. He went on to describe the dilemma of pre-medical advisors who year after year saw their science majors succeed in getting into medical school and staying there. The pre-medical courses required by our medical schools today are so modest as to hardly be worthy of a future physician, scientist, or any other educated person for that matter. Yet our colleges persist in pushing young medical hopefuls into the all too familiar molds. Our admissions committee at Indiana University School of Medicine this past year selected more than half of the 305 entering students from applicants who did not major in chemistry or zoology, but it was not easy. We also selected about 1/3 of our class from students with rural backgrounds and about 1/3 from college juniors. 10% of our incoming class chose a combined degree option. Our program has been in operation for 17 years and has graduated 450 individuals, the majority of whom are in clinical practice. 1/2 of our entering group chose to pursue their first year of medical education at one of our 7 centers for medical education away from the main campus. I emphasize that they volunteered to do so. Dr. Ivan Bennett, in his address to the Academy at the same symposium, outlined curricular trends then in evidence. I shall review and comment on some of them. 1. The integration of college and medical school. There are still a few sporadic experiments, but this is not an active trend today. 2. The increasing coordination of basic and ethical science. This trend is actively pursued as an elective in most schools, but is judged generally to have fallen short of the mark. 3. Early patient contact, still a common trend. 4. A shortening of the curriculum. This was the vogue a little while ago. It generally is no longer in evidence. 5. Teaching machines and computers. This is pedagogically interesting, but not a mushrooming development. It is very costly, and it is, in the terminology of today's medical student, dehumanizing. 6. The emphasis on ambulatory instruction. This remains a strong trend and major challenge. 7. The increasing use of electives in the curriculum. This is now so universal as to no longer be a trend. Electives are part of the curriculum of all schools in both the United States and Canada. One school, Stanford University School of Medicine, has a totally elective curriculum. 8. Another major trend in evidence today is community orientation and primary care education. How socially conscious are our schools? A recent survey by the Association of American Medical Colleges netted responses from 65 of our 114 schools. These schools are conducting one or more programs designed to effect better distribution of physicians by specialty and geography, increase primary care education, integrate and coordinate residency programs, provide more equitable programs for foreign medical graduates, increase their community orientation, develop new kinds of health, manpower, and provide a variety of programs in healthcare research, among others. We are concluding that the schools have been quite responsible to local and national needs and to private and public concerns. The curricula have been anything but static. Clearly, much is being done. What else might be needed? First, we need a realistic reassessment of the aims and purposes of the medical school itself. We must not be lulled into complacency by our successes, otherwise the fate of our institutions may be similar to that of the railroads. Theodore Levitt, writing in the Harvard Business Review recently, titled this problem, Marketing Myopia. He describes this as a characterizing of industries which focus on a single product in their detriment.
That was snappy.
Tough take.
Wow. Can you skip that one?